Embryo genetic modification will gain a lot of popularity in the future. These infants are born with a higher IQ, attractive physical features, and regulated emotions. They are flawless specimens who are referred to as GC people, after the company Gren Crest Labs, which developed the technique. These GC individuals are sent into deep space as astronauts when space exploration becomes necessary to resolve climate change. When they reach Saturn, a group of GC astronauts led by Commander Linden awaken from their cryosleep aboard the starship Teleios. The mining vessel Atramitos, which has been drifting off the moon Titan of Saturn, is their objective. Since Atramitos is so much larger than Teleios, they have to use all of their kill thrusters simultaneously to align the two ships when they find it because its hull is about to break. Dr. Orson chastises Zimmer and Anderson for touching when they attempt to celebrate the docking's success with a fist bump, causing the GC biosigns to become confused. After that, they get in touch with Nordum, the CEO of GC Labs, to tell him that they've accessed Atramitos' system and that their last transmission was 3 months ago. Now that no one is responding, they think the entire crew is dead. Nordum explains that they need to recover the cargo because they don't see the point of a rescue mission. This carbon-fixing catalyst, which will restore Earth's atmosphere, was mined for 2 years. After that, Duncan gets access to the logs of Atramitos, and the captain tells him that they are finally ready to go after a lot of delays. All they have to do is wait for the crew quarantine to end. The captain writes on a different log that the situation is getting worse by the hour and that a violent mutiny is very likely. As a result, Orson laments the fact that perfect GCs just like them must always clean up after humans. They suddenly hear a strange sound coming from Atramitos. It's music from the 1990s that is death metal. After Zimmer overrides the access code due to a change in the inter-system configuration, the Teleios crew prepares to board Atramitos by arming themselves. When they finally enter, strange graffiti covers the walls, and the music is so loud that they can barely hear each other. An improvised security device attacks the crew at that point. The crew splits up to cover more ground after they destroy it before it can harm them. Zimmer learns that the black box was removed by force, but at least he can access the system and turn off the music. Lulu, Atramitos' robot servant who informs them that there is only one survivor remaining on the ship, can be found among the overgrown plants in the greenhouse, which Anderson discovers to be the case. Duncan finds Travis after destroying another security device, but he is unconscious and almost in a coma. Unfortunately, the cargo is not present when Orson looks for it. The crew meets to discuss the situation a moment later. The Atramitos tracking system is disabled, and neither the cargo nor the crew were detected by the scanners. The only DNA that was found was Travis's and the plant's. Travis is the junior engineer on the ship, and nothing special about him is shown in his file. He even has no military training. Travis is fine physically, but mentally he is a mess. It could be any combination of PTSD, depression, or depersonalization disorder. Because Duncan has a PhD in psychology, Linden decides that she will be in charge of the guy because she tries to talk to Travis but gets no response. Lulu can't help because, like Atramitos' system, her memory has been erased. In the meantime, Anderson receives a cold message from Nordum inquiring about the cargo. She says that since they'll be stuck here for some time, they'll have to figure out how to make the most of it. This surprises Zimmer because the GC ought to be above this because that almost sounded like flirting. Duncan visits Travis and tries to build a friendship with him by being kind and talking about things like crew friendships and how mind-altering space travel can be. Later, Duncan presents her findings to Orson and Linden. Travis didn't respond to anything she said, but Duncan mentioned Lulu, and his face did twitch. Duncan points out that not GC people frequently develop feelings for robots, particularly if they appear human. Zimmer conducts a medical examination to confirm that Travis altered Lulu to provide her with private parts because he is an engineer and could have made some changes. Linden decides that they will let Lulu visit Travis from time to see if she can be a controllable carrot. They discover Travis has escaped and is probably armed due to the absence of a pulse rifle shortly after the ship's system goes out. She tries to get Travis to talk to her once more with kindness after Duncan goes looking for him and finds himself at the end of Travis's weapon. Linden interrupts them just as she is about to get him to react and uses threats to force Travis to lower the rifle. Duncan argues with Linden for not trusting her methods after they lock Travis up once more, but Linden just reminds Duncan of the mission. In the interim, Anderson bizarrely informs Zimmer that the emergency lights soothe her. After finding that the Atramitos like to watch violent robot fights, Zimmer decides to access their entertainment files. He believes that this is normal because imperfect people want to kill each other, but Anderson finds it disgusting and tells him to stop. After that, she takes off her jacket and makes a comment about how hot the room is without the air conditioner, which makes Zimmer feel more awkward than she should. They receive another cold message from Nordum reminding them to get the cargo and that everything else is secondary after Zimmer gets the system working again. Before approaching Travis once more, Duncan examines the wall art and talks kindly to him about his work before leaving him alone with Lulu. She then hears Travis whispering things to Lulu in Mandarin before Travis kisses her as Duncan enters the next room with a hidden camera to observe them. After that, Duncan goes in search of Orson and finds him lost in a corridor because he forgot what he came here for, which is odd since Orson never forgets anything. Duncan plays the recording of Travis's words, which are garbled because of the whispering because Zimmer knows Mandarin. Zimmer is able to make out the words unable, believe, and near and wonders why Travis's profile didn't say he knew any languages. However, Travis promises to translate the entire conversation. When Duncan returns to watching Travis and Lulu, he notices that her hand is shaking, so she stops it before anyone notices. Duncan forces Lulu to leave the room and inquires about what Travis said, to which Lulu responds that Travis had told her that they were always together. This contradicts Zimmer's translation, indicating that she is lying when she shouldn't be. While Orson shares some military strategies he has studied in the past, and the guys are discussing alternative methods of interrogation, Zimmer and Lyndon oppose anything that could cause harm. Anderson, who is having issues with the bathroom system, interrupts them, so Zimmer goes to fix it. After surprising Zimmer with a hug, Anderson asks Zimmer to stay and persuades him to get frisky with her in the shower. As Duncan watches Travis, he suddenly hears him speak Russian. The ship suddenly starts to shake before the computer can start translating. The crew discovers that an outside door has been opened, so they are losing atmosphere. Lyndon notices Zimmer leaving Anderson's room without his uniform, but now they have to focus on the emergency, which gets worse when Zimmer realizes they've locked themselves out of the system. The fact that the door opened in the cargo bay doesn't make sense because the cargo bay should be isolated, which means that the air seal must have broken. While Lyndon holds Zimmer with a rope, Zimmer enters the cargo hold. Although he succeeds in closing the door once more, Anderson still weeps because she believed her friends were in danger. Although Lyndon returns unharmed, Zimmer has already passed away due to the air pressure, so Orson takes him to the hospital for a medical examination. He concludes that Zimmer only requires some rest, probably until he wakes up, which leaves him perplexed because he typically states things more precisely than that. Following that, Lyndon chastises Anderson for what he did with Zimmer in the bathroom and reminds her that GCs shouldn't indulge in primal pleasures. In the meantime, Duncan inquires about whether robots can lie, to which Orson responds that while they can be reprogrammed to provide incorrect responses to specific questions, they cannot create their own answers. However, when he examined Lulu, he did not discover any such programming. After that, Duncan returns to the computer to translate the Russian sentences she heard earlier. Anderson hears this and points out that it is a complicated quote from Tolstoy's War and Peace. Also, Anderson wonders if Travis is thinking about what their existence means, which prompts Duncan to rush to him and finally confront him. She explains that she thinks Travis is just pretending to be psychologically traumatized after electrocuting him. Travis responds in French, which Duncan can understand. Travis just adds another literary quote and asks her not to repeat it to anyone. Back to Anderson. She manages to get the Atramitos communication system to work, but she sees the same message. The recording of Nordum, which appears as a new message every 2 hours, has not been live. Anderson breaks down in tears when Lyndon asks her to send new encrypted messages to Earth until they get a response, and Lyndon yells at her for being emotional. Lyndon yelled at them once more when Anderson ran to hug a newly awake Zimmer, who came to see them at that moment. He believes that he would have been able to spot the cargo bay error before it almost cost them their lives if Zimmer had not been with Anderson. Lyndon tells Zimmer what he finds in the logs and tells Anderson to go see Orson to find out why she's getting emotional. The information in the first year of logging was comprehensive, but it became less so in the second year until it nearly stopped about 3 months ago, as if the information had been deliberately suppressed. Zimmer wonders when Lyndon became such a twat instead of commenting on that. When Orson examines Anderson, he does not discover any indications that she is ill. But he refuses to admit it. Anderson wonders if Orson feels different too. Duncan investigates the most recent quote from Travis, which turns out to be Molière. Under ultraviolet light, she examines the graffiti, uncovering a hidden message that prompts her to examine the logs. Duncan tells Lyndon that Atramitos was never really in danger and that Travis purposefully placed it close to Titan's atmosphere shortly before they arrived. Duncan is led to believe that the cargo is not what Nordum told them because a recording reveals that there was a disagreement about the cargo that led to faction war. The next thing Duncan does is show Lyndon the secret message she found in the graffiti. It is a chemical formula that shows a liquid compound made of water and a foreign substance reacting with it. The other drawing shows water, and Duncan recalls that Travis wasn't aiming for her when he tried to flee, but rather at the panel of the main water filtration system. Duncan was led to believe that the cargo was this compound that reacts badly with water and can be harmful to humans because the cargo was jettisoned from the cargo bay door. All of this is considered circumstantial evidence by Lyndon, who orders Duncan to confess. Duncan goes to Travis to ask for an explanation. Travis quotes Tolstoy again and says that the compound would kill people, not GC people, so Duncan leaves in frustration while her hand shakes. When Zimmer discovers her in the corridor, he inquires about the hand, but he quickly forgets why he came here in the first place. In the meantime, Zimmer informs Lyndon that the special box in which the cargo was stored ensured that it would have survived the landing if it had been released into Titan's atmosphere. However, searching for it would be like searching for a single sand grain without additional information. To get Travis to talk, Lyndon later authorizes a more brutal interrogation method. Duncan asks Travis to tell Orson where the cargo is or else Orson will hurt Lulu. At first, Travis doesn't do anything. Instead, he just watches how Orson gets the arm of the robot. But Travis finally snaps and gives them the codes to track the cargo box, just as Orson is about to hit him in the head. He agrees to explain everything about the compound as well, but only if they let him fix Lulu. Zimmer tries to get close to Anderson in the communication room, but Anderson pushes him away for the mission. Zimmer admits that he can't focus on his work because he keeps thinking about her, and he no longer cares about the mission because he is sick of not having the power to choose. Anderson weeps and kisses Zimmer after hearing that she is beautiful. When Lyndon sees that the couple is acting again frisky, he tears them apart and tries to start a fight, but Orson stops them with the information they got from Travis. They are able to locate the cargo using the code, but they are unable to see it. Lyndon and Zimmer decide to descend in a pod to retrieve the cargo. Duncan brings Travis repair tools while he tries to talk to him. He explains that while he erased Lulu's in the ship's memories and jettisoned the bodies and cargo, he was unable to put an end to the situation for himself. He decided to embrace the madness because he couldn't forget all the terrible things. This allowed him to tell the story on his own terms because nuances couldn't be explained in a captain's log. After the crew had successfully mined the compound from Titan, a single tiny bit on a glove broke through the quarantine and entered the water supply, rendering all of their water toxic. They sent a message to Earth to let them know that the compound wasn't safe. However, Nordum only told them that the ship came with a unique water filtering system made by his company that could deal with the compound, so they were always aware of what it could do. The crew was split into two teams, and those who didn't want to return the compound to Earth were killed by those who wanted to follow Nordum. Travis was able to make it through the conflict by staying away from it, but the winning team perished one by one in the shadows. The compound should kill normal people and use their blood to fix GC people, according to GC Labs. Travis begins repairing Lulu after Duncan leaves to inform the others. In the meantime, Anderson discovers a message from Nordum announcing that this will be his last. Nordum explains that every GC person's DNA has a tracking code that was supposed to be inert, but it is mutating and causing irreversible neurological problems, and he is aware that the crew is probably experiencing the symptoms of unwelcome emotions by this point. As Travis stated, the Earth is roiling, regular people are being hunted, and the crew has only a few hours before they become completely irrational. When Orson, Anderson, and Duncan get together to talk about the problem, Orson says that Travis's blood could fix everything. Duncan decides to wait for Zimmer and Lyndon's return before doing anything because this would also kill him. She is forced to remain next to Orson with her rifle out until their friends return when Duncan discovers Orson attempting to sneak out of his office with the tools for blood extraction. Lyndon and Zimmer return 16 hours later, but as soon as they enter the ship again, they get into a fight. After the crew separates them and confirms that the cargo is in good condition, they discuss the matter once more and decide to vote. Although Zimmer and Anderson oppose taking the blood, Duncan ultimately agrees with Lyndon and Zimmer that it is preferable for one person to die than 5. Anderson tells the others that she doesn't trust Orson because she saw him working on a suspicious quote from The Art of War, while Orson is going to start the procedure on Travis. She finally realizes her error when Duncan explains that he has just been translating the text Travis spoke to Lulu. According to the quote, Lulu was the one who killed everyone, not Travis. Orson is knocked out right away when Lulu wakes up at that moment. Orson is unconscious when the crew rushes to get their rifles, and Lulu and Travis have already left when they reach the recreation room. Anderson tells Zimmer that she loves him out of fear of what's to come, but the ship's system goes down before Zimmer can respond. Zimmer turns to see what's going on, but when he hears a thud, he looks again, only to find that Anderson has been shot in the back while they were distracted by the alarm. Zimmer is so enraged that he disregards Duncan's warnings and sets out on his own to find their adversary. Lulu is eventually discovered in the cargo bay, and now that she is in combat mode, she is superior to even a GC person. Lulu still overpowers Zimmer and kills him despite him landing a few hits on her. Travis discovers Duncan and immediately shoots her in the head with his rifle, revealing his position and allowing Lyndon to shoot Duncan as well. Lulu walks by Duncan's body as she enters that corridor, thinking she is unconscious, but this is all a trap. Duncan and Lyndon shoot at the ship's lighting system to cause it to explode above Lulu and electrocute her until she breaks, then Lyndon is holding Travis hostage to prevent her from moving. After that, despite Travis's denials, Lyndon prepares Travis for death by calling him depraved for the changes he made to Lulu. Because of this, Duncan changes her mind about the vote and kills Lyndon instead of attacking Travis. She goes on to explain that she was in the remaining 3% of people with the GC problem, which is why the mutation hasn't affected her as much as the others. She wanted to know why Lulu changed herself and how she was able to lie, so she let Travis live because he said he didn't change Lulu. Travis claims that Lulu made the changes so they could get closer, but he doesn't know why her programming changed. They must transport Lulu to Earth in order to fix her, which is the only way to obtain answers. Travis is instructed by Duncan to take her to Teleos and tell everyone on Earth his story. Because she killed someone when she was young because she couldn't control her temper, Duncan will remain in Atramitos and wait for the end. He believes that she deserves it. Duncan defies Atramitos' instructions and causes the ship to crash into Titan's surface once Travis and Lulu have reached a sufficient distance in Teleos to be safe.